Hey everybody, Justin here. Welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to live fearlessly as yourself. If you struggle with insecurity or not being comfortable in your own skin or caring too much about what other people think about you, then this is definitely going to be a video that you're going to want to watch. If you take this information to heart, you will experience a level of freedom of being able to be yourself fully that most people do not experience in their entire life. So without further ado, let's get right into this video. Now, to understand how to live fearlessly as yourself, you must first understand this fundamental idea. And this idea is that you've been tricked into thinking that your worth, your self-worth, comes from the external world. And this is not your fault. This is not a judgment. This is just how our society is programmed. It's where our society is currently. I do think we're shifting out of this, but we've been programmed to think that we need other people to tell us if we're worthy or not, or if we're doing good or not, or if we are valuable or not. And so this idea that is incorrect, that is an illusion, is where we must start. The only reason that you're scared to be fully yourself is because the external world provided you with programming, conditions, and experiences that told you that who you are is not enough. And because we run by this programming that we need to listen to the external world to tell us who we are and how we should feel and how worthy we are, we decided to hide parts of us or change parts of us or diminish or reduce parts of us that weren't acceptable in order to fit in order to be accepted by society. And when we live life like this, we are letting the external world become our source of self-worth instead of being our own source of self-worth. And this is where I'm going to take the rest of this video, is in order to start living fearlessly as yourself, we must let go of this paradigm that other people determine my sense of self-worth, and we must pick up the paradigm that I cultivate my own self-worth independently of external events and circumstances. And so what this means is that your work here is taking responsibility for your own self-worth instead of letting the world decide it for you. And let's dive deeper into what that really means here. So how I'm going to describe this to you is showing you the two different ways that you can start operating with reality and your idea of self-worth. Now, the first way is what I'm going to call the feedback loop of external validation. This is how most people live their lives. This is how I used to live our lives, and it's how we've been programmed, again, to think that the external world should dictate how we feel about ourselves. And how it works is it is a feedback loop, okay? How it works is as you live your life, you experience external stimuli. You experience and receive input from the external world. And this input is just our life experiences. In the case of self-worth, these are going to be the life experiences that we have decided dictate our self-worth. So things like someone telling us how they feel about the way we look, or our parents telling us we should or should not do something when we're children, or comparison on social media, these kind of experiences. Now, what happens when you are in the feedback loop of external validation is you draw this input in and you let it determine for you your worth. If you're being good enough or not, if you are worthy or not, if you're valuable or not. And of course, this determines everything else. This determines your level of self-confidence, your level of insecurity, and basically it becomes how you show up to the world. And once you've received this input and you've determined if you're valuable or not based on what you've been experiencing, then what happens is then you change. You either, as I said earlier, you either change parts of you to try and fit in, you hide parts of you or hold yourself back in some way. That's what I used to do. Or you just repress and suppress yourself. A lot of this also can happen unconsciously, because a lot of this is also happening unconscious, or they're ideas that we picked up when we're children, and a lot of those times we were unconscious as well. So basically what's happening is this started from a young age because that's how we were programmed, and now we subconsciously do this unless we consciously go in there and start taking control, which I'm going to tell you about in just a second. So we change parts of us, we diminish parts of us, we reduce and hide and act different ways than what we really are, because we are, again, relying on the external world for our validation. And if we want the external world's validation, we have to play by that set of rules. Now, what's important, besides understanding this feedback loop that never ends, is it will never end unless you decide to stop it. In other words, you will continue to live by this paradigm unless you consciously stop it. And that is what I'm going to spend the rest of this video talking about, is how to start taking control and responsibility for your own self-worth. And how that works is we become our own source of self-worth. We draw from our own well of self-worth, which is internal, and we let the external world be as it is. So how we do this is, first, we have to invest our attention and focus more on our internal world rather than our external world. This does not mean you become aloof or start ignoring reality or hiding from reality in any way. But what it does mean is that you stop giving the external world so much importance. You stop giving what other people think and events and circumstances so much importance, so much value, so much power over you. The key to understanding this is realizing that other people, their opinions, what they think, is just them living out their own conditioning. The same way that you and I were both unconsciously living out our conditioning, that's what other people are doing. Especially hurtful people, people who are purposely trying to bring you down. It goes back to that old saying that hurt people hurt people. They are just living out their conditioning. And so I want you to put that into perspective. When you're giving less importance to the external world, realize that it doesn't mean much. It's just other people living out their conditioning. Now, when we give less energy, less attention, less importance to the external world, what happens is then we free up more energy for us to work with internally to start becoming the source of our own validation, the source of our own self-worth. After you have decided to stop giving the external world so much attention and importance and focus inwards, we must start practicing self-acceptance. So what we're going to do is we're going to take all of those parts of us that we have rejected, either consciously or unconsciously, the parts of us that we suppress, the parts of us that we decided we don't like and shouldn't be shown because, again, of what we've taken on from the external world. All of those parts of us, we must accept fully. And this is the real work. This is where your real power and your real freedom comes into play, because we're going to take those parts of you that have been rejected and we're going to bring them up and bring them up to the light and accept them fully. Because if you cannot accept yourself, then you cannot expect other people to accept yourself. So this does mean looking at the darkness, looking into your shadows. This does mean exploring past experiences, past traumas that you have not healed or let go of. I'm not going to get into those techniques in this video, but I did do an earlier video on how to release trapped trauma and trapped emotions in your body. Really powerful stuff I'll put a link to it here. I recommend you check that video out. If you do have some trauma you're holding on to, or you do feel like you're really holding on to some negative emotions, it's super powerful, super advanced. So you can incorporate that in your practice of self-acceptance. So again, we must look at those parts of us and start accepting who we really are, which includes the shadows. So once we have done this work, this exploration of the rejected parts of us that need our love, they need our light. They're just like a child that is lost and they want to be found. They want their way home. So once we've done that, then we can start embracing our individualism. You can start embracing your uniqueness, your distinctiveness. What makes you you, you need to start embracing that. You need to start living your truth. You need to start speaking your truth, because there is no one else on the planet currently who was ever on the planet before or who will ever be on this planet in the future that is going to be like you. You are unique, you are special, you are an individual, and you need to embrace this part of you and start expanding from this place of uniqueness, of this place of being yourself, because that is your power. Your superpower is being yourself. And when you hinder that, when you reject that, and when you hide away from that, when you mold into what other people expect of you, you are basically giving up your power and giving up your superpower. It's like Clark Kent just giving up being Superman. Like, that's what it is. So start embracing who you are, embrace your individualism, and start marching forward from this place of being happy that you are being yourself, being excited about putting yourself out in the world and expanding from that place. Now, when you start speaking your truth, when you start living your truth, when you start embracing who you really are, what happens is you're not only fulfilling your obligation to the world, your obligation to provide your gifts to the world, but what you're also doing is you're giving other people permission to do the same thing. You're giving other people permission to shine, other people permission to also be themselves fully. And that way we can start waking the world up to letting go of, again, this negative feedback loop of relying on the external world for validation and self-worth. Bringing this back full circle, we have the two paradigms, the two ways that we can operate with reality in respect to self-worth. The first one I already talked about. It's that endless feedback loop. To become our own source of validation and worth, we have to give that up, and we have to start operating with reality in a way where we don't give as much importance to other people's opinions and circumstances and events, and we decide for ourselves who we want to show up as by practicing self-acceptance fully, exploring the parts of us that we have rejected, and embracing our uniqueness, and stepping forward and operating from that perspective, which is where our true power lies. And when we do this, we quite literally start fulfilling our obligation to the world. We give other people permission to do the same thing. And what you will find, which is the exciting and fun and magical part, is your reality does change. Your reality shifts. So go out there and be yourself fully, live fearlessly as yourself, and realize that the bigger risk is in not being yourself. You risk more not being yourself than putting yourself out there and embracing who you are and operating with life from that perspective. Guys, that's all I got for you. I hope you got some value from this. If you did, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button as well. That way I will know to make more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching. Have a really good day.